Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. And I'm with the one and only Robert Randolph today. I was just telling Robert when I started this show like 700 episodes ago, he was one of the guys. I said, man, I hope I can get Robert Randolph on. He's such a talented musician and songwriter and player. And he just brings a great spirit and energy to what he's doing. I saw him in concert down here with the family band in 2011 with my son. And I was just telling him my son, Nick, was so excited that he was on because it was such a great, memory for the two of us to see the show. So a couple of quick announcements. I just want to thank Eric Krasno, our mutual friend, for hooking us up. And also make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe. Subscribe to the audio. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and click the bell. And let's get into this because this is the man. Robert Randolph, recognized as one of the best pedal steel guitar players ever. He was trained to play in the House of God Church in Orange, New Jersey, primarily playing with the rest of his family members there. In fact, for many years, he had no exposure to music outside the church when he was growing up. On his first non-church tour of the East Coast, he and the family band opened up for North Mississippi Allstars. And then along with John Medeski, Robert closed his set as a band called The Word. He's played with he's played with a million people, but some of them are Soulive, Los Lobos, Dave Matthews, Sly and the Family Stone, Buddy Guy, Ringo Starr, Carlos Santana, Ozzy Osbourne, Robbie Robertson, Randy Bachman, G Love, Blackberry Smoke. We had Paul Jackson and Charlie Starr on the show here a while back. Switchfoot, we had Drew Shirley on here. Robin Ford we had on here. Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Eric Clapton, including opening at Clapton's Crossroads Festival. Warren Haynes, Allman Brothers, Sam Moore, the North Mississippi Allstars, as I mentioned, and many others. His songs have also been used in movies and on television, as well as by the NBA and the WNBA. And for those of you that don't know, those are two sports that used to be on TV right now. He's released 6 studio and 2 live albums to date. He's been nominated for 4 Grammys. His last record, Brighter Days, is an absolutely beautiful record, and it was also nominated for Grammy for Best Contemporary Blues LP. Robert, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, brother. How you feeling, man?
Right on.
There, huh?
Yeah. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Who signed that guitar there, man? I'm just looking at that behind you.
That's actually those are just like souvenir guitars that we had.
Oh, okay.
So it's just all kind of random people from a party,
Yeah, very cool, man.
Yeah, man.
Hey, so the first couple of questions, I just got to ask you to forgive me because they're probably going to be questions you've been asked a million times. But after that, we'll be flying fresh here. How did you first get exposed to music outside the church?
Man, around probably, I would say, I always listened to, growing up in the inner cities, we always listen to rap and R&B and then kind of smooth jazz, kind of that kind of thing. And then, around 1996, my cousins gave me a tape of Stevie Ray Vaughan's greatest hits. And that was sort of the moment to where I had really gotten into blues and rock. That sort of led me down this whole other path. But I had listened to that Stevie Ray Vaughan greatest hits album every day, all day. And I was like, I want to play the pedal steel slide guitar like this dude is playing the guitar. It was literally the best thing, So, not until 1996, I believe it was 90. Yeah, it was 1996. I got that tape and I would play it. I'd be driving in my car and people would be like, what the hell is that you listening to?
Oh, people that you normally hung out with that didn't listen to that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's all my black inner city friends, and everybody's like, what the hell is that crap, man? Put on some Biggie Smalls or some Tupac, man, at the time, that was the whole Biggie, Tupac, Bone Thugs and Harmony era,
Uh-huh.
So, and all of that stuff everybody's listening to. But, so that's what turned me on was Stevie Ray Vaughan's greatest hits.
Very cool. And how did your music, your non-church music, get exposed to others initially?
You say how did my who?
Like when you first started playing non-gospel, rock.
Oh yeah. That started around. Shoot, I really didn't start till 2001.
Wow.
2002, I would say. The first I mean, yeah, because we had started playing shows around like 2001 around New York, but we were just kind of playing jams that we either kind of made up, or most of them were like things that we used to play in our church, because our church was very like rock and roll bluesy.
Okay.
So a lot of the things we would just take them as instrumentals. A lot of the songs that we sang were taken from snippets of gospel songs that we kind of just made, you know, chants. Like if you look at like, you know, the first record that we have recorded was Live at the Wetlands, right?
Great record, man.
So that was basically all like stuff we used to play in church. You know, I mean, literally all of those songs, jams, you know, we had kind of developed them into like different things, but there was always that version, you know, those riffs all come from church things. So,
sorry, I'm saying, how did you get that gig at you were like one of the last guests there, I think, weren't you?
Yeah, but before that, we were playing, you know, the Wetlands was always busy. So the Wetlands was like there's literally like no other bit. The Wetlands is kind of might be where they got this idea of doing these sort of, you know, jazz fest late night shows from. Yeah. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. Or maybe the Wetlands took the idea from them, but Wetlands would have like 3-4 shows in a night. I mean, they would have literally, I mean, they'd like 3-4 ticketed shows, you know? It would be like, you know, and my buddy Pete Shapiro, who owns Brooklyn Bowl and all of that now, Capitol Theater and all of that, and Relics Magazine, you know, he was just this young guy, so enthusiastic, and there was just music all day in this little small club. God knows how many people they used to cram in there, you know. But I remember I had a job then. You know, I was.
What were you doing? What was your day gig?
I was assistant paralegal at a law firm in New Jersey.
That's wild.
Yeah, because I never went to college. So right out of high school, I just went to work. You know, I started, you know, minimum wage to $9 in those days. Then I got all the way up to like, you know, $18 an hour being an assistant paralegal. That was big money back then.
That was back in that was good money back then.
You know, in 2000, man, you know, all my friends in college, I'm the guy with the car and the money, you know. They all struggling and broke. So yeah, that was the time. But yeah, Wetlands will have 4 shows a night. But yeah, we were one of the last shows. It was like the third to the last show.
Very cool.
That was ever there before the whole Twin Towers came falling down and they shut that whole area down and that whole thing happened, you know.
How did that record get put out? And also, once it was released, what was the trajectory of your career? How did everything sort of open up?
Man, that record, you know what happened actually? It was actually both of those so that record, actually before that, I had recorded the Word record. We recorded the Word record.
Okay.
Like this year actually marks the 20th anniversary recorded the record. So this September, October, we actually recorded. I never forget, because we had already started playing like a couple shows, and the North Mississippi Allstars and John Medeski were at the time going to do it's like this sort of like gospel-y tribute to the Sacred Steel album. And then they found out that I could like leave the church because they had already reached out to some of the older guys that was in my church playing, but those guys couldn't leave the church. You know, it's kind of like old politics of gospel churches. You know, you're the devil if you go out and play for white people. So yeah, I mean, that's literally, you know, it's crazy, you know. And it's kind of funny how it's funny. I know some other like white Christian Southern people, man. And one guy this guy's older, and he's like 84, and he was telling me the story about last month. He was like, yeah, we were taught, man, you can't be nowhere playing with black folks, man. I was like, really? He said, yeah, man, we grew up in a church in the South, man. And they were like, y'all better not be going to go have church with them black folks, man. So it's kind of weird, right? It's kind of crazy how the whole world, but whatever, man. You know. Listen, I got to tell people, I'm like, listen, this is going on since the beginning of time.
Right.
You know, I mean, where there were wars and fights and slavery over religion. I mean, that's what's taking the whole thing, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
when you talk about the Holocaust and this and that and all these other things that happened throughout the whole thousands and thousands of years, you know, Greece, Rome. I mean, everything was really over the religion.
Totally.
You know, who were you? Where are you from? Oh, we don't believe that. Oh, so we got to kill you. We got to go to war, you know, whatever. So anyway, so North Mississippi Allstars and John Medeski had sort of recruited me to record that album. And I'll never forget, I was like, man, you know, because I'm a big Mets fan, you know, New York Mets fan.
Yeah, of course. I'm from the city, man. So yeah.
So that was the year that these guys decided to record during the World Series of the Mets and the Yankees, you know, when Armando Benitez was the pitcher and blew the games, you know. So I remember sitting in there. So that was literally the first record. So anyway, both of those records literally came out like months apart. It was like Robert Randolph with The Word and Robert Randolph with the Family Band, Live at the Wetlands, and so forth. So everybody was kind of like two different things, but it's really kind of one thing, but two different groups and all these different things. And so kind of like things were taking off then. And then, you know, both of those really, I mean, kind of, it was kind of weird, like, because The Word served one purpose, but Live at the Wetlands was actually kind of like bigger at that time in terms of like sales, I guess.
Oh, that was massive. That was a great record, man. That was just
yeah. I remember, like, I mean, that's what led Eric Clapton to, like, you know, for me going on tour with Eric Clapton was that record. You know, he listened to it and Carlos Santana heard it and all these big stars. I mean, I didn't realize at the time because I was so young. I was just like, wow, thanks a lot, man. You guys like it? Oh, well, thanks, you know?
Right.
So that's what kind of started the whole career, I guess, you know?
What were some like early challenges for you once you got out of the church and into the music business per se? Was it hard to sort of navigate that stuff or sift through it, or, you know, it's a whole brand new ball game?
It was just sort of, I mean, you know, it's kind of something that I never really got overwhelmed or thought too much about it, because it was kind of like, I feel like I was destined for it, you know, because you know, it's kind of weird. Like I told you those stories about religion and so forth. So my whole story of guys playing pedal steel in my church goes all the way back to the 1920s, right? So we're like the sort of we're sort of the Black Buena Vista Social Club of pedal steel guitar music.
It's so funny, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I get it.
I mean, it's went on for 70 years of literally like these guys who were great players. And it was about a good 6 guys that were really great when they were like in their 20s and 30s. But these guys all died now. And you know, not all of them. There's 3 of them still living. But like the original guys started it. This guy named Willie Easton came back from the war with a lap steel in our church at the time. It's like a church organization. So when I say our church, it's like a small Black American Pentecostal organization. Right. So in those days, in the South, where the church was originated from, one of the old guys, his name was Willie Easton, came back from, I believe it was World War II, and he had this lap steel. I believe it was World War II around that time or whatever it was, you know, whatever. But came back with this lap steel because the church couldn't afford organs. So he just kind of started this whole thing. So don't forget, at that time, everything was sort of going on. When you talk about 30s going into the 40s and 50s, you had all of that early blues kind of stuff, to where all of that music, you know, influenced blues into rock and roll into this and that, right? And so we're sort of like, so those guys couldn't leave the church all the way up until I left the church. So when you're talking 70, you're talking about 80 years from the late 20s to 99, to really 2000, I would say, is when I first started. And They made a big deal of it. They were like, Robert's the devil. He's going out and playing for those people in them bars and clubs. He's not allowed back here in the church. So
How did your folks feel about that? Were they supportive of you? Were they skeptical of the whole thing, or?
I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, I just told them, at the time. I mean, they were kind of upset and kind of embarrassed because, I mean, what do you want that somebody gets up in the church and talks about your kids?
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
But it's kind of weird because my family is so loyal to the church, like most families are. So you kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place of what you do. So it's kind of like they were like encouraging, like just go out and go ahead and do it. But me, it really didn't bother me anyway. Like I said, I was so young. I really, I was only 19, 20 at the time. So it's kind of, that kind of stuff really didn't bother. So that's why I said I feel like I'm destined. I felt like at the time to kind of spread this word and spread this story to where, all of those years, I mean, even now, it's kind of like, here we are, this 80-year-old Buena Vista Social Club story of African-American music, pedal steel, lap steel guitar. Who's this Robert Randolph guy? Where's he? Man, he's one guy from, must be living in the backwoods, man. A black guy playing pedal steel. So it's like, where's this? It's like, no, man, I'm from New Jersey, born and raised, Newark, New Jersey, man.
So you felt pretty comfortable. Like I like what you said. You felt that it was your destiny to do that. You didn't feel conflicted. That's really pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. Yeah, I did. So it was kind of just like, it was just kind of like a duty, it's kind of like, I mean, especially for the first time when I actually saw, it's kind of weird, man, because, some of these people I talk to now and there was this group called the New York City Freaks, right? And it's kind of funny because the first law firm, when I worked at this law firm, right, it was like a Jewish law firm, big Jewish law firm in New Jersey. So this is my first time being around Jewish people, right? So I worked there for 4 years, right? Really 5 years. Let's see, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, 4 or 5 years. And all of those guys were so, like, when I told them I played, because I never really talked about music. So when I was like, hey, guys, I'm leaving work. They were like, what? To go do what? They were like, play music. What the hell are you going to do? What? We didn't know you played music. I was like, yeah, man,
Oh, you never said anything?
Nah, I never talked. Because, we only played in church. Our church was like, a chitlins. It was like a chitlin circuit, right? So
right. But I'm surprised. Yeah.
Well, because that's really all we really cared about in our church. It was just kind of like the chitlin circuit. Like, I'm going to go to, hey, man, we got to go to Miami, Florida. We got to go to Charleston, South Carolina. We got to go play at the church. We got to go to Rochester, New York, and Brooklyn, and Philly. And, because we had it was like our own little chitlin circuit of church jamming. So all I really cared about was kind of being like as good as the guys that I grew up watching and learning from. So I went from this Jewish law firm to, like, we started playing at these little bars in New York City. And then all of our first fans were like these Jewish kids, right? And all of them are kind of like, including Pete Shapiro and Annabelle and Aaron Stein and Danny Owen and all of these guys and girls, right? And then they had a group called the New York City Freaks, right? So they actually were the first ones that sort of spread the word of like, hey, you guys got to go check out this Robert Randolph guy. And it's kind of weird because at the time, right, you don't know. It's just kind of like, hey, hey, some people like us. And they were like all excited. And actually, and it's weird because they were just telling me this, like, it started out because New York City Freaks was like a mixture of, it was just like Fish fans and Widespread Panic fans, right?
Okay, yeah.
So that's
heavy
what
jam band orientation.
Yeah, they were, but it was specific for those, when you had like chat rooms.
Yeah.
Right. So this was like the beginning of like, you got mail into like the first, when Apple first got started. Actually, when we recorded the Word record, I never forget this guy, Andy Hurwitz, who was in charge of Rope-A-Dope Records that put out that Word record. He showed up with this thing, man. He was like, you got to check this out, man. I was like, what the hell is that? He's like, man, they call this thing an iPod, man. I got all of my CDs on here. I was like, everybody was like, what?
Oh man, yeah.
So that was the first time we ever saw that, the first iPod,
That's cool.
which,
That's really cool.
which seems like you're talking about like the 50s, right now, right?
Yeah, it does. It really does. It's just 20 years ago, man.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, that's weird how life sort of just pans out, man.
You mentioned when you said Miami, did you happen to know Wizard?
I don't know. Who's that?
He, the bass player from Mother's Finest.
Nah.
He's from Miami, and he grew up in the church, and he would do the same thing. They do all these pretty intense tours in the, as you call it, the church chitlin circuit, for lack of better. Yeah.
I mean, that was your only source of income, man, because the church don't give you no money, so you got to go play these little. I mean, that was the whole thing. It was like never made it. Just like all you cared about was dressing up and going to jam at church,
Right.
So that's sort of the thing about it.
I'm going to mention some people you've worked with. If you could talk about how you wound up connecting them and maybe share a cool or interesting story about working with them. And let's start with the great Buddy Guy.
Man, Buddy Guy is like, he's the guy that's literally more like your granddaddy. Whenever you're around Buddy Guy, you just can't help but think about like your strong granddaddy,
right?
Like the guy that has some kind of superhuman power, and whenever he opens his mouth, you can only do one thing but listen, because this guy has been through so much, and he's 84 years old right now, and he's so freaking healthy. But this guy has played with Muddy Waters and Jimi Hendrix and Albert King and Howlin' Wolf. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For him to just be like a backup guy in those bands and then have his own career, and then here we are, he's 84 years old, man. Just to be around him and watch him, and I mean, it's just so much. It oozes out this confidence, this sort of badassery, this whole like, okay, man, here's Granddad. Hey, don't, but he's the nicest guy also,
Yeah.
But he just comes across as this, you don't mess with him, man.
Oh, totally. He comes across that as a performer too, man.
Yeah. Like, you don't mess with him, man. Like, you can't, a guy like that ain't scared of nothing. They don't care about, all they care about is being happy. They don't want no drama, because when you grow up doing real chitlin circuit in the South, the blues circuit, and traveling with them dudes, man, those stories, man, that they used to tell me, man, it's like, wow.
How'd you meet him?
Man, I don't miss, I kind of met, I'm trying to think, when did I meet Buddy Guy for the first time? I'm not sure. I think it was probably at some festival, where you meet him, and, we wind up touring together. I think the first time I might have met him was at the Crossroads Festival. I think it was at the first one, I think that was it. The first Crossroads Clapton Festival. So.
How about Robbie Robertson?
Man, Robbie Robertson thing was weird because, he just called me one day, Actually, no, same thing. I met Robbie Robertson at the first Crossroads Festival with Eric Clapton, the first one that was in Dallas. And if you ever look at that film, right, the actual footage, Robbie Robertson, Eric Clapton are all on the side watching my set early in the day. Like, we were like the second or third people to go on, and they were all like watching a set that day. It was, oh, you guys, got to come see Robert Randolph. So that was the first time. So then I wind up talking to him afterwards, and then he was like, hey, man, you mind if I call you sometime, man? We could chat up, man. I want you to play on one of my songs or play on my record or something. Let's see. Let me know when you're in LA, and let's out. So, okay, cool.
That's cool. That must have felt good when you're up on stage there and you look over the side and you see those guys digging what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny, man. When you're young, it's kind of weird when you're younger, man. You don't really think about it much because you're just young. You've been drinking all day. you know these guys are legends, so you just kind of just go like, hey, let's stay away, let's just, let's not bother them or whatever. But they were always very nice to me, and always, were approachable and so forth. But yeah, it's kind of amazing, man. I mean, go down the list to all of these guys, and meeting and hanging and playing with them. It's kind of weird because I remember at that time, I remember asking him, I was like, yo, man, what was it like when y'all did the last waltz? And because one of my moments waltz thing is watching Muddy Waters kill it. And he was telling me the story. He's like, man, Eric Clapton was so nervous following Muddy Waters. Like, you could tell because the strap came off his guitar.
That is wild. That's a tough thing to do, to follow Muddy Waters, man.
I mean, who did that schedule, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You got to come after Muddy Waters after Managed Boy, and then, it's like, wow. It's like, that's like, it's kind of like, Usher following Michael Jackson.
Yes, that's exactly what it's like.
It's like Usher following Michael Jackson,
And Clapton, you met Eric, you said, because he heard the first record and reached out to you and asked you to play on Crossroads.
Yeah. That was, I think, before the Crossroads thing, we did, Eric Clapton had heard Live at the Wetlands, and right at the beginning, right at the end of that, I would say right at the beginning of 2002, I had signed a record deal to Warner Brothers, and Eric Clapton was on Warner Brothers, and the guy named Bill Bentley that was there, who was a blues historian. He was an older guy. He was close with Clapton and every single blues guy that past and present. He was like, you guys got to meet. You guys. So we were actually booked to play in Tokyo, Japan at this club. And then the same night, Eric Clapton was playing.
Oh, okay. That's
actually,
pretty
no,
awesome.
it was a day off for Eric Clapton and them. So they would, because they were doing like a Tokyo tour, like 2-3 days. So Eric Clapton, so he came to the show that night, and then next thing you know, I was like, hey man, whatever happened to Eric, man? I was like, well, I guess we must suck, man. He didn't stay, huh? So the next day we get a call. It's like, hey man, Eric Clapton's taking you guys on his next tour. I was like, what?
Wow.
So we wind up doing a whole, and that was like, we did this whole world, well, not world, it was like a European tour with him, man. The thing was like 3 months long,
That had to be great for like exposure to building your fan
man,
base,
it was so, that was great. It was like that happened, and that tour happened in 2003. So we did 2002, and then and then Unclassified came out, and then we went on tour with Clapton. It was like, 3 months long. It was like 3 of the longest months.
What a great pairing, though, like to have the audience. So like that, you couldn't have got a better audience for you to launch your whole stuff, man. Listeners, that's a great pairing.
Yep. No, it was awesome, man.
Any other gigs that were cool or memorable, or people you work with that you want to talk about?
Man, it was so many of them, man. Ozzy Osbourne.
What'd you do with Ozzy? I found that interesting. It's like, that's not what you'd think, Robert Randolph and Ozzy Osbourne.
It's crazy hearing like his voice with my pedal steel, right? It's kind of wild. It's funny. I had totally forgot about it up until like 2-3 years ago. Somebody was like, yeah, man, I listened to that thing with you and Ozzy. And I was like, what? I'm like, I totally forgot about that, man. And I remember Sharon called me on the phone, and she's like, hello, this is Sharon. Are you going to be in? I was like, Sharon who? And they were like, but what's funny, I even got a funnier story than that, man. So like in 2007, we were in the middle of a tour, and all of a sudden I get this call from Ringo.
Wow.
Right? But I didn't even know, because all of a sudden the phone rings. It was like, I'm hungover. He was like, hello, is this Robert Randolph? I was like, yeah. It was like an English accent, and it's kind of like, who's this? It's like, hey, it's me. I was like, Ringo who? I don't know no damn Ringo. Who the hell is Ringo? He's like, it's me, Ringo, from the Beatles. Ringo. I was like, what? I was like, hey, man, how's it going? You know, like, what? Why you calling me?
Did you think someone was like pulling your leg on that or something?
Yeah, I still did until, you know, and then I was like, and I remember like my tour manager at the time, you know, he's a big Beatles fan. So I was like, it's like, this guy says it's Ringo on the phone. He's like, what? He's like, put him on speakerphone. So I put him on speaker. I remember like, you know, I was like, you know, and he was like, he just did like, he was like, holy shit, that is Ringo. He's like,
wow.
So anyway, Ringo was like, hey, by the way, I'm just calling you because, you know, Joe Walsh is getting married to my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, and you're Joe Walsh's favorite band. We both love you guys, and we want you to be the band for the wedding. Like, what? I was like, all right, man, no problem. Just call my agent.
That's wild. You could have said, hey, man, we don't do weddings, you know.
Hey, listen, that was the first time we ever did a wedding. You know?
I know, but if you got to do one, that's the one to do, man.
That's the first and only time we ever did a wedding. And people call to ask to do weddings all the time. You know?
Oh, that's so funny. What was that wedding like?
Man, it's the most nerve-wracking thing, man, because we got to this wedding while we were actually on tour. So we were on tour in the West Coast. And it was in LA downtown at this cool place. And we get to this wedding and we just show up at the reception, you know, and everybody's in the audience. When I'm telling you, it's like everybody, like Pink Floyd, Foo Fighters, the Eagles, all of the big record execs, all of the big record label people, and just anybody you can name, every single huge star, guy and girl, was at this like 200-person wedding reception. And here we are playing. And it's like, well, what do we do? Are we just going to play our songs? So we started playing our songs. And then after like the second song, I was like, hey, guys, look, man, you know, listen, we can't normally, I can't play like this with a bunch of damn rock stars in the audience, you know? So everybody, let's just jam together, man. Come on, Ringo, Joe, anybody, Dave. So all those guys wind up hopping up and we wind up making it just to this drunken jam wedding, you know.
That's so cool,
Joe
man.
Walsh's. Yeah, it's one of the most memorable moments of my whole life, you know, between a phone call and then the actual wedding.
Yeah.
It was like nerve-wracking because it's like, imagine you're the Robert Randolph in the family band. Well, you're any band and you're asked to perform in front of the Eagles. You know,
that had to make you feel like, did you take a pause after that and say, man, I started in this church in Orange, New Jersey? Like, it had to be a really cool, like, hey man, this feels good. I've really moved forward with things, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
that's great.
It was kind of cool, man. You know, just I even do it now, man. You know, when you think about this ride, you know,
Yeah.
Of just everything, where you've been, and of course being home now in quarantine, you got your whole life to think about.
You got nothing but time. I know, man.
So you get to analyze all the mistakes you made and what didn't you do right and what you're doing right and what you need to do when this is all over. So that's really it's really just been this fun roller coaster, man. That's what's great about music. You know, it's kind of, I mean, I could actually write one of the most amazing books right now. And I can't imagine, you know, see, to me, my goal is I keep telling people, I'm like, listen, my goal is to like have the career like a Buddy Guy or BB King or somebody like that. You know, you play music till you die, man.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what else can you do? You know, I mean, just think how much fun you have. You're constantly meeting people. You're making new music. You grow old. You become this icon. You see all the others young people that you've influenced. You know, that's literally the perfect life. And then when you get older, you actually save more money. You make more money.
Hey, I'd love to ask you about some of my favorite songs of yours. And I mentioned this to you the first email I sent you, Ted's Jam. How, I mean, first song on your first record I mean, that is such an amazing. I literally, it's impossible to, when that track comes on, it's impossible not to stop and just start vibing with it. It's like, it's a masterpiece, man. What's the backstory to that, and how did that come about?
Man, you know, Ted's jam is this guy named Ted Beard. He's 85 years old. And, you know, he's one of the originators of my Sacred Steel music, the tradition. He's the head of the music in our church still at 85. My father is married to his daughter, so he's like my grandfather-in-law.
Oh, okay.
You know,
all right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My father got remarried to his daughter later on.
All right. I got it. Gotcha. So he's anyway, your like step grandfather or something.
Basically.
Yeah, that's wild.
After growing up my whole life, like trying to play the guitar like him.
Yeah.
So anyway, he, on one of these old church tapes, you know, this sort of Ted's jam riff that, you know, right,
dude, I got goosebumps. Just it's so like, it's such a I mean, it's like, it just sorry, man, it just opens up as soon as you hear it. It's like, man, I know I'm in for a nice car ride.
Oh, thank you.
No, seriously, man, it's like a beautiful piece of music, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, that was yeah, so we got the riff from him, and I just, you know, we just kind of made it as this whole kind of like long jam rock and roll thing with transitions. So, you know, that's the beauty of having forefathers, you know, like sort of like how Hendrix took from Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and all those guys, you know, and Robert Johnson and Albert King, I guess, and whoever, you know, at the time, you know, T-Bone Walker, I guess I should say. And then Stevie Ray Vaughan took from all of that, you know?
Right.
So that's basically just how music is. I mean, and to me as an artist, as a guitar player, especially as a music artist, there's really nothing more satisfying than really taking something that you learned from your forefathers and really kind of helping that create something new for you, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, because we all want to be, you know, there's all of us want to be like, you know, Kobe wanted to be like Michael Jordan.
Sure.
Right. And just all of these things, you know, so for me, I wanted to be like these guys, and to see how I took that thing and it made it into now, you know. So it's funny because Ted is always like, man, you know, you made me famous.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I'm sure you got him hip to this. What is his thoughts on the whole thing?
He loves it, man.
That's cool.
You know, he loves it. You know, he enjoyed it. Actually, he was over my house about like, shoot, literally right before the pandemic. It was like the first weekend in March. Yeah.
That's great, man.
He was over here, and we actually got him on video. And I was like, look, everybody, it's Ted from Ted's Jam. You know.
Oh, that is awesome, man. Does he still play? Or can he still play?
Yeah, he can still play. You know,
That's
he can't
awesome.
play my guitar because I got a totally different tuning and more strings, but he can still play on his guitar. You know, he still plays in church and everything. Yeah, he's actually a preacher. Yeah, he's a pastor of a church in Detroit. That's where he's from, Detroit, Michigan. So,
well, anybody listening who has not heard that track, do yourself a huge favor and play it. It's off the Live on the Wetlands, Robert Randolph's first record. It's the first song on the Ted's Jam. You got a song on Colorblind, which came out in 2006, called Do Yourself a Favor, which is a really cool, funky arrangement of a Stevie Wonder song from 71. I was curious, what was so appealing to you about that song that you wanted to redo it? It's a great arrangement of it, man.
To Do Yourself a Favor?
Yeah.
Man, you know, it was weird, man. The first time I heard that song, actually Steve Jordan introduced that song to me.
Okay.
You know, because, you know, that was always sort of like one of these hidden Stevie Wonder tracks.
Yeah, like a deep cut, sort of, yeah.
Yeah, it's a deep album cut. So that's what Steve Jordan is great for. You know, he knows, you know, like Steve Jordan and Questlove are like notorious for that. And I'll even go Questlove to a further extent. And Questlove from the Roots has like a 30,000 album collection. and he knows what's on every album, who played on every album. You know, that guy is like a professor, man.
I've heard that about him, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, like nightly, he's doing these, you know, nightly right now, he does these, and all of the songs that he plays is all of these like sort of wild albums, right? And constantly everybody's chiming in like, who the hell is that? And it's like, this was a Michael Jackson song that's a deep cut. It's like, well, who the hell ever heard that? Where is that? You know? What is that? You know? So, yeah, so Steve Jordan was the one that turned me on to that. And so we just decided, since, you know, why try and sing the song like Stevie Wonder and butcher it? Let's just let the guitar sing.
Yeah. It's a great funky arrangement, man. Really.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then on your last record, man, Brighter Days, you got a song on there called Baptize Me. And my notes are, man, every time I hear that, I get goosebumps because it reminds me of like, do you know this guy? Most things never work out. What's his name?
Who?
He has a record called Most Things Never Work Out. He's one of these old guys, and he played in the juke joints in the Delta. And that song, it's like a juke joint song, only with contemporary engineering and production. It's like a great blues groove, you know, like something you would have heard really soulful in the juke joints back.
Are you talking about Junior Kimbrough?
Yes, Junior Kimbrough. Yeah. He's got that one album. It's like the best titled album for a blues dude. Yeah. Most Things Don't Work Out.
Yeah,
so fun. He's a monster. That guy.
Oh, he's a monster.
Such a soulful cat. Yeah. But the groove in that song that you do and the fills are just awesome. And I was curious how the song came about, and also who's singing the vocals. It almost sounds like Greg Allman. It's really soulful, man.
That's me singing the vocal, man.
Wow, dude,
came a long way, right?
Holy shit, man! Well,
you know, happened.
Dude, that's amazing.
We wrote that song. That was like the first song we actually wrote for the album. I was working with this producer, Dave Cobb, who
out of Nashville. Yeah,
out of Nashville. So he produced everybody. And Dave Cobb is one of these guys that, you know, you come in with a song you wrote, and which we all do. We come up with this thing we made, and he's like, nah, man, we gotta go. Like, he's Dave Cobb is a guy that's really like, I know you wrote that song 6 months ago, but how do you feel now? Like, let's write and record something now. What's on your mind? What's going on in the world? What's, you know, and we kind of all felt, I mean, at the time that, you know, let's do something that's very much, that has a message and the stories and the feel of, you know, me coming out from the church, you know, and what ways can you inspire people and uplift people, and how can we write these songs and come up with titles and because see, the music is always easy, you know, when you're a ADD musician like us. I mean, I have, you know, on my iPhone alone, I probably got 1,000 voice memos of music, right? Arrangements and jams and things. But it's combining the music with the song, with the title, with a thing that has a story or a deep meaning, and something, you know, that'll make people think, but not put you in a down thing, makes you want to groove and dance, you know. So that was the goal, and Dave Cobb is very good at that. You know, he, you know, wants to do things that's only real, you know, no overdubs if we really don't have to, and let's just sing. It's weird because, you know, he's a guy, you say you like the vocal sound.
Oh my God, dude! It sounds like Greg Allman. Your voice is so freaking soulful there, man. That's.
Thank you. I don't know about Greg Allman, but
that's what it sounded like to me. I didn't know you sang it. I was like, who's singing this? Plus, you sounded like a white dude for some reason, which was so I never would have thought it was you.
Oh man, that's funny, man. Yeah, I mean, you know, Dave Cobb is a guy that he, you know, he's like actually about to record that. He's like, all right, man, go ahead and sing it. So I'm walking to the vocal booth. He's like, you know what? Don't go to the vocal booth, man. You look comfortable right there sitting on the couch. Yeah, set him up a mic right there while he's sitting down on the couch. Let's just sing the song. That's how I did it, you know?
It's great, man.
He's like, listen, we're not even going to get into all that. We don't need to. Like, he's like, I ain't have to go in the vocal booth, but really for what? If you feel, because he was like, don't you think sitting down? Because since I'm playing, he's like, yeah. He's like, all right, well, let's just do that then.
It's a beautiful song, man, and it's really pretty. And one of the things you just mentioned is you don't like to get people down, and that's pretty consistent with your music, man. It's very uplifting, and whether it's groove oriented or like, you know, fast paced like Ted's Jam, or it's just, man, it's nice to listen to it because you feel good.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
it's
it's just, I mean, that's me. The goal and with all my music is always about trying to make somebody feel good and uplift people's spirits. And usually if it makes me happy, then I know it's going to make somebody else happy, right? Because it's just a certain formula. That's how I grew up in church playing. You know, we always had the purpose of coming to church to play because we're all here together to be uplifted, you know?
yeah, right on.
So somebody could sing a song, somebody could sing a song that God put on their heart, or somebody may have something to talk about or testify about, as you would say. So it's kind of like, you know, during the course of a week, you know, Monday to Sunday, Sunday to Sunday, you know, we all encounter a lot. So, you know, so it's really like you can't wait to get to church to help uplift somebody's spirit, to write songs, to play music and all of that. So that's really the thing.
Yeah, well, you accomplish that like very consistently, man. So thank you.
Thank you, bro.
I notice when you're on stage, and I noticed this when I saw you play down here, and I went through a bunch of videos to prep for this. You are like, you got radar, man. You're super aware of like everything behind you. And I was curious, were you always like that, or did you have to make adjustments? Because it's, I mean, you're really on top of like stuff going on and, you know, signaling people or whatever.
That's just something naturally that we grew up, you know, when you grew up, you know, making improv music, you know, you got to listen to, you know, and that's one thing that was always great about growing up in church, because so many things are spontaneous and improv, but also we're all training doing a church service, right? So, you know, because anybody could do something on the spur of the moment, but, you know, so you have to, you know, you have to be able to follow the song, but then have something to fit in that's groovy and improv, but make sure it stays tight in the groove, you know? So it's kind of like, hey, so you listening, hey, I got a new riff. This is working. Then you point to the bass player, the guitar player, the organ player. Stay there, do this, do that. So that's kind of like,
you're on top of that though. You could see like it's like radar, man. I was watching you.
Thanks, man. It's just something that's natural that, like I said, yeah, I don't know. I can't even explain it. It's just something that's the way we grew up communicating. I mean, that's literally like church communication, music church communication 101, because you have to know the signal. Stay there. Don't move from that riff. Right?
Yeah.
And people in church will be more harsh. You know, it's funny. It's kind of like how James Brown, you know, grew up, you know, and the reason why he makes that music, right? And why his voice is like that, because he walked into some church or somewhere and he saw, because, you know, listen, church could be church and everybody can mean well, but it's also kind of cutthroat, man. Like, you know, we always joke around because as kids, you know, you grow up and adults grow up, and all of a sudden you could be playing, let's say if I'm playing the drums, somebody signals, he ain't playing the right beat, get him off the drums. All of a sudden in the middle of a song, you get a tap on your shoulder, and you already know what the tap means. It means,
oh no,
go sit down.
Oh my God, that's a ton of pressure, man. Not to be.
Oh yeah,
you don't want that tap, man.
That's church. That's this. If I said that to 5,000 church musicians, let's say if I took all of the musicians that grew up in church, everybody from Beyonce to all of the guys you see playing in bands and backup bands and quartet guys, and, you know, all those guys, everybody would know. If I say, hey, get that tap, everybody know what that means.
That's time out. Oh, wow,
Listen,
man.
we all have been tapped out before.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
You know, I mean, it could be for any reason. You know, you dragging behind, you ain't playing. The singer, listen, everybody gets tapped out. The singer gets tapped out. The bass player can get tapped out. The organ player get tapped out. Guitar, you know.
That's crazy, man.
Everybody get tapped out except the preacher.
Except the preacher, right on.
As they say, the preacher's always right, right?
The preacher's always right. So where's Orange? Is that near Newark, you said?
Yes, right. They all right next door. You know, New Jersey's weird, where it's all these towns all bunched up together. But it's technically Newark.
What was what was your childhood like growing up there?
You know, we had a normal, you know, my parents wasn't poor, so yeah. It's funny, my father got mad at me. He's like, "Why did you tell these stories in this thing? Like, act like we were poor." I'm like, "Well, he wasn't actually rich and we wasn't actually poor."
Yeah. So you're like middle class.
And you were cheap. You didn't give anybody any money. I said, I'm talking about the teenage years. I ain't talking about the kid years.
Yeah, that's funny.
When I was in high school,
you didn't give anybody money.
Yeah. When I was in high school, I had to do everything for my own, man. That's kind of weird. That's why I had like sort of 3 different lives so far, you know, 3 different things, you know, because people don't, you know, when I was in high school, man, I used to do things like gamble and sell drugs, man, you know?
Yeah, man.
Like when my parents got divorced, you know, it's one of those normal things, even though you grew up in church and you do that. And it's even more weird as a church kid because it's kind of like.
Yeah, you have like a layer of accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
So it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny because I'm like thankful to have kind of witnessed both, you know, or been a part of both because you learn so much, you know, and it's the reason why now I'm so passionate really about teenage kids and helping out and doing different seminars and going to high schools and colleges and talking to kids because, you know, when you're in high school, your life can either go left or right,
yes.
You know, and those are the key years because, you know, you're growing up as a man and you feel like a man and you feel like a woman, you know, and you're arguing with your parents. You don't know, you're old. You don't know, this is the new way and that's that. And blah, 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 blah. And all the kids are cool and I'm not cool and this and you know what I'm saying? It's just all of these. You know, you go through all these things. I never had no self-esteem issues or none of that. Still don't. But it's just that, you know, that's just what goes on around you. So, you know, and of course, you know, you grow up and somebody got the new sneakers on and got a gold chain and got the nice jeans on, you know, at that time, you know, I was like, well, might as well make some extra money. Might as well do this and do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we go play in church. Plus, you know, I had a lot of uncles and cousins and everybody and aunts that sort of helped me kind of stay on a straight, narrow kind of path.
That's
as
good.
Straight as I could be.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why I couldn't go to college because I just barely made it through high school.
Do you have kids of your own?
I got one, yeah.
Yeah. So have you, like the lessons that you learned, have you sort of as a parent implemented them the same way?
No, man. Us parents these days are total weak, man. We're all weak. We're weak. Listen, it's funny, man. My grandmother's 85, man, and there's all these little memes that are always flying around. And somebody posted something the other day, and it was this funny. It wasn't even a meme. It was a video of a mom explaining to her 3 black kids, like, now when we get to this party, don't you ask for nothing extra. Don't you say nothing to nobody. And no, ain't nobody coming back home with us. And if somebody says something, I will knock you. You better not embarrass me at this party. Act like you ain't got no home training. Everybody
That's so
was like,
funny.
That's my grandma. That's my mother there. That's my grandma. That's how we grew up, you know.
Yeah.
But ain't nobody doing that these days, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, come on, Mom. I want some food. I'm going to cry. You know.
All righty. So what were some of the low points or dark periods you had to deal with in life, and how'd you get through them, Robert?
Well, I guess what happened, you know, dark points, you know, it's really always, you know, whenever you have to, you know, I've been through about 2-3 different managers.
Yeah,
man. And it's just kind of, you know, times change, things change. And, you know, music business is sort of like a weird thing, you know. and you go through all these different transitions, and people go through different things in life, including myself. So sometimes as you get older, as you know, you become, I guess, smarter, I guess.
Hopefully, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
You kind of gotta separate from people that you worked with, sort of help you grow to a certain level and to a certain place, helped you out, sort of, you know, struggled with along the way, you know, some of the beginning, you know, management and certain people. I mean, I guess I would say, you know, it's always a dark place when you gotta separate or get rid of people in the band or crew, management, whatever you want to call it. Record labels too, as well.
Yeah.
That you're just in a different place, a different time, you know? I mean, it's happened to all artists, all of us.
Yeah.
So I guess for every artist, that's the part that's dark and not fun at all. And it's always, and the worst part about it is, you know, whenever you do get new people, there's this whole long transition period, you know, that you kind of got to re-explain to new people or to people that say, oh yeah, I know what this is. I know how to do it. I know what you know, and then the dark period is like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But I mean, it eventually gets right. But I guess that's the dark. Those are the dark periods I get. You know, I've never been addicted to drugs and alcohol, even though I like to drink. You know, never had those sort of addictions. So you know.
Yeah, that's a blessing, man. Let me tell you, because a lot of people I've talked to struggle with that, man.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like the church boy. It's really more so of having a big family, you know. I mean, my grandmother still treats me like she's my grandmother.
Right on. Hey, that's great, man.
Yeah, so does my mother, and then all of my family and everybody else. It's kind of like, get over here. I need you to help me with something. Get over here. I need you to help me take out the trash. Help me change my tire. Help me do.
Yeah.
So it's always good when you come off the road and everybody's doing everything for you, and then you got to go do everything for everybody else. You know, look like a bum, get dirty, scrape your elbows and knees up, get yelled at, get threatened, get smacked by your grandmother.
Dude, but that stuff keeps you like making sure you stay in your own head and don't think you're bigger than you are, man, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, when I think about sort of most people that I've at least become real close with, whether it's big artists, you know, legendary people, legendary artists, or billionaire friends that I know and close with. We're all sort of similar like that, you know. I mean, I don't really hang or have no intentions of hanging with anybody that's sort of, you know, way too rock starish and like living on some other planet, you know, and like, and not treating life as this precious thing, you know, family, friends, and so forth. So I don't know. I guess that's the kind of person I am.
That's cool. I think in today's day and age, if you have an attitude, you're dreaming, because I mean, it's just not real. You got to be humble and grateful for what you have, man, especially nowadays.
Well, coming off of this, it's going to be interesting that, and it's mainly been going on in this country, you know, to where, you know, I've been telling people for a long time, man, and it's not to kind of really get too political or crap on America. It's just like, you know, us Americans, we believe what's ever on TV, what's ever on the news. And I tell people that stuff is just all entertainment. Just like, you know, like we become different people when we get on stage, you know. I mean, yeah, we're all playing with heart and soul. We put the clothes on and we do this and get the hair and the look going and all of that. But, you know, it's just that, you know, watching the news and some of these different things, it's like America has had the history. I mean, don't forget, America is a country full of people from everywhere.
Right.
And for some reason, we all forget that. So we really have no traditions. We really have lost our customs of wherever we come from. Like, you know, and most of us, like, are so far, like, it's, you know, it's like us black people, right? I mean, due to slavery and all of these different things, 400 years to be exact, we have no history of who we are, what we used to eat, what we used to do, who our family are, who, you know, like, it's funny because I have my family tree from the whole ancestry.com.
Oh man, you did that must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, well, my cousin did it. She did all of the work. So her and my aunts kind of went in and did all of the work. And it's kind of interesting to see, like, you know, when we came in to America and well, my ancestors came in the year of 1785 to which it was called the Randolph Plantation.
Holy smokes.
Which is, guess what city that's in? Can't guess. Richmond, Virginia was called the Randolph Plantation.
That's wild.
Yeah. So, you know, so when you go through all of that, so anyway, so before that part of, you know, before 1785, right? 1786, whatever year it was, right? We don't know who our great-great-great-greats are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
From which, like, what's funny is she actually stopped. And it's funny because I never, you know, they had a specific family reunion where they gathered together and went back to Richmond and kind of went through the whole thing.
Got the T-shirts, Randolph Family Reunion.
Yeah. But we were on tour at the time, so I didn't get to go.
Right.
But so she did this. Her and my aunts did this about 4 or 5 years ago. So I think, like, within the last year, I was sort of like, hey, so how do we know which tribe we are? Like, where do we come from? Where was it? Ethiopia? Was it North Africa, South Africa, East, West? So she never really went there. She was like, oh, well, I didn't want to pay the extra $200-300 to do. I'm like, what? So coming off of this period, at this time that we're in, which is everybody sitting at home reflecting, you know, doing all these different things. I mean, after this, you know, I believe you're going to come out with a much different, you know, United States of America.
God, I hope so, man.
Just focusing on this country, you know.
I hope so.
I mean, people are going to act different. I think we're going to be nicer to each other. We're going to respect each other a little more.
That's what I'm hoping. Like, people just be kind, man.
Yeah, just as the majority. I mean, you're always going to have idiots. That's just the way of the world. You know, people think idiots are just going to disappear. It's like, it's not going to happen. We've had idiots since Adam and Eve and Abraham and
yeah.
You know, so all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, through, you know, thousands and thousands of years. So that's just the way it is. So hopefully we'll come out of this thing.
Man, I hope so.
On the other side, you know, one thing that'll be different is the entertainment industry. Music is all good. We don't know what we're going to be doing. A lot of us musicians and artists. I mean, who knows? I mean, even on the live, just entertainment side, football, basketball, baseball, sport, hockey, boxing, all of these different things, track and field. It's going to affect millions of lives. Who knows what's going to happen? I have no clue.
Yeah, I don't know either, man.
And actually, nobody does.
Right.
You know, believe it or not. Anybody that acts like they know, they have no clue because they don't.
There's no framework on. There's no reference point at all.
No, not at all. And in terms of the debate, I mean, you see, Germany has already sort of put their vaccine in trial.
Yeah,
right?
I saw that.
So that's already happened. So, you know, welcome to the land of, you know, America, where we just, you know, believe whatever we see on TV. I mean, it's funny, everybody's getting pissed off watching, like, these press conferences with Cuomo and the president. It's like, what are you watching at? What is that going to tell you? It's not going to tell you nothing. They don't have a cure. They don't have nothing. They're going to tell you more deaths, which we already know more people are going to die, more people. So what are you watching that for? So now everybody get on Twitter. We get angry. We argue with each other because so-and-so said this, but I like the president, but I don't like the president, but I like Cuomo, but I don't like. It's like, what are you watching that for? It has nothing to do with it. It's going to do nothing but make your day even worse sitting at home.
Bro, I haven't watched a newscast or read a newspaper in over 35 years because it's just too negative.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
I cannot I mean, if I have to deal with negative shit that comes in my life, fine, but I'm not bringing it in.
Exactly.
You know? And I may be less informed. I'm okay with that for the upside of not having all that negative shit in my head.
Bro, it's like, but some people just don't get it. They just think like, oh, that's the truth. The news is the truth. You know, that's what everybody believes in. You know, it's like, whatever, man.
Yeah.
That's the truth. It's like, okay, yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
Let me know. The government can't even cure high blood pressure, but let me know.
Yeah. Right on, man. Hey,
So
I
anyway.
want to talk about your gear for a few minutes. And I'm really curious, mostly, what effects are you typically using on your slide? And what I'm particularly interested in is like distortion, fuzz, overdrive. And is there one effect you especially enjoy?
Man, I would say, you know, there's two companies now that I've found that really make great pedals. And actually one is called Vertex, which they've modeled all of their overdrives and distortions off of the Dumble amps. So you get this sort of real Dumble sound, you know.
Is that Mason Marangella, his company?
I you know what, I would have to look at it. I don't even know.
No, I think I had him on my show a long time ago. I think that's his company. Yeah.
Wow, I got to check it out because I don't even. They make great effects though, man. I mean, they last long. You know, sometimes you get a lot of these effects and they last like 2 months.
Yeah.
You know, and they're crapping out on you on stage. You're like, what's going on? Oh, you just the pedal shit to bed. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah, you're spending $200 on a pedal, man. The 2 months is not acceptable.
No, it's not, man. You know, especially not like when you used to buy those old pedals and they last forever and ever. It's funny because at my church, you know, I went back there and they had this box of all these pedals that I used to use, you know, all of like the Ibanez pedals and stuff. And those things, I went back and took them home and they all work and they actually sounded great, you know?
Wow. And that's from 20 years ago, roughly.
Like the 80s, man.
Yeah. 30
you know?
years ago. Right on.
Yeah, because they were actually given to me by one of my uncles who played guitar. So, you know, you talking those Ibanez pedals and the what's that, the small stone phaser, you know, that great.
Yeah, those are great. That's MXR, I think.
MXR, yeah.
They're out of the city.
Are they really? Oh, that's right. They are.
Yeah, they're downtown somewhere.
They actually make great pedals.
Yeah, I got a couple of them right here. Yeah, they're real good. Love them.
But I would say the number one company for pedals is this company called Source Audio.
Okay.
And you got to check them out.
Yeah.
Because all of their pedals not only are they're analog and digital for some weird, like they got the total analog sound. So what you do is you go in and you plug in a pedal, but you could also like get on your iPad or your iPhone and you could actually tweak the frequencies of every single, you know, you can get every nuance out of the pedal, you know, that you want. So they like all of the pedals hook up to an app, and at the amp while you're playing, you actually go in the app and go, you know, I want less of this, less of that, more. So you can like EQ them all, tweak them all. So when you go to hit, you know, let's say if you got on a pedal 3-4 setting, when you go to hit that setting, you get exactly what you're looking for, you know?
That's cool.
Instead of sitting down and you're like, oh, this kick, oh, let me play with the knobs a little bit. I mean, that's always fun when you're like super high or something, you know? You know, and the crowd is rocking, but that's not what you really want, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what's cool about it. You could go in and you could tweak all of the different scenes, but it's not complicated. It's very simple. These pedals are actually very simple. They sound great. It's got all the analog technology, I would say. And I would say those two companies, I got about 3 pedals on my pedal board that I use. 4 pedals now with their new reverb. So, but Vertex especially gives you the Dumble sound. They actually got one called the Steel String. Vertex has, which gives you this clean Dumble boost.
Is that what's in the beginning of Ted's Jam?
Well, no, I mean, you talking pedal. Yeah, that's a whole different thing, man, back then.
What did you use, right? You know, like you talked about last time, that opening riff, which is like magic. What was there any effect on that?
Actually, I used to, no, man. I was like Hendrix in those days. I only used like a volume, a wah, and one little clip-on box that I used to have. I mean, that might have been the PV sound, man, you know.
So it's sheer overdrive from the amp.
Sheer overdrive from the amp, super loud.
Dude.
You know, I was playing through a
goosebumps again, just thinking about that, man.
There's Dream. I was playing through a 400-watt PV amp back then, man.
400-watt?
400-watt, solid state 400-watt PV amp, man. That would be like playing through 2 Fender Twins, man.
That's pretty 400-watt. Holy crap.
400-watt, man. I mean, listen, the reason when you hear any Stevie Ray Vaughan, Van Halen, Zeppelin, Hendrix record is because those guys were loud. It's just there's you cannot replace the sound of a loud amp.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? I mean, because that's where you get all of the different the nuances and the different expressions and the voicings, right? So that's the key. And like everybody's trying to develop an amp now and they're trying to figure out how do we get to that, you know, but it's just not the same, man. You know, I mean, you notice that nobody ever has the tone like Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan because those guys were freaking loud, man.
Yeah.
You know,
good point.
And it's just nothing you could do. It's like we could all try and play the licks and you can do that, but I don't care which guitar player you listen to, and I like listen to them all. The best ones are the ones that are turned up loud.
Yeah, man. Very true.
You know?
Very true.
Because if not, you get a lot of and no really vocab, you know, no A-E-I-O-U. You get like,
yeah.
But what, you know, hey,
what are you playing through amp-wise now, usually?
Amp now, I actually have my own Robert Randolph PV amp.
Oh, that's right.
The combo, yeah, I use a combo of that, which we developed, which is great. It actually comes with this 212 speaker cabinet, which I've already made bets with people, like with other different guitar players, and we like A and B them. They beat every amp. The speaker cabinet does.
Right.
Everyone ever made. So Hartley PV wins again. We developed that amp, you know, over the course of like a year, and it's the speaker cabinet. But the speaker cabinet is unfreaking believable, man. You know.
I got an old PV.
I see, man.
Delta Blues. I love it. I love it.
Blues. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's just a 15-inch speaker. What a great tone. The reverb in there and the tremolos just.
Yeah, it's great, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Great, man. I've used that too. We have those. We keep those in our trailer, man.
They're so reliable, man. You can't go wrong with this.
And also, I use a combo of that, and I use a combo of it's the Mesa Boogie Lone Star, which is actually another really great amp. But you know, I found out the real key in any sort of combo amp or speaker cabinet or whatever. So first, really, the speaker, right, is 1A of the sound, right? Yeah. It's all about the speaker. Forget this and that, and you know, you got a good speaker. That's the first step. So then I learned from these guys, it's really all about the wood enclosure of that amp. If you got some freaking plywood in your amp, you're doing your speaker no justice.
Yeah, right. Disservice.
But if you got a great piece of wood, you know, like a piece of koa wood, it don't even have to be something expensive like a koa wood. Just a real piece of wood, like how they used to have years ago, you know, and all of the old amps, the Fenders, the PV, you know, they use real wood. There's no plywood back then.
Or something like
some press board. Yeah. You see?
Yeah, that's
probably if you took the speaker out of that thing, the amp itself would probably weigh like 10, 15 pounds just from the wood, you know?
Yeah. That's a pretty heavy unit right there. And it's not well, but it's pretty heavy.
So it would weigh at least 10 pounds. So that's sort of the thing about it.
Hey, this is an unfair question because you've played with so many favorite musicians you've enjoyed playing with. that you have a special vibe with, let's say?
I'd say my favorite musicians are Dave Matthews Band, first. Second would be Carlos Santana. I would say Buddy Guy. And if I would name young guys, I would say to have jam with and play with, who are really good. Young. I would say younger guys. I would say, man, Derek and Susan, man. Really great band. It's tight.
Incredibly tight, man.
Yeah,
especially as big as that band is.
Yeah, it's tight. It's great. I mean, that's all about Derek. Derek is all about, how tight the band is, everybody on. And then, then you go and improv and do all the other things, that you got to do to stretch out or shorten up or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me your top three, just for now, top three Desert Island discs.
Top three Desert Island discs. Michael Jackson, Off the Wall. Stairway to Heaven.
Led Zeppelin 4.
Yeah, Zeppelin 4, I'm sorry. And Bad Company, Greatest Hits.
Yeah, what an awesome band.
Man, unbelievable, man. It's really, I mean, the band itself with the singing, it's kind of like, it's like nobody's ever done that I mean, this guy could sing anything over anything, but like not too excited, just chilling, but really like, what, how does, they laying down these hard rock, soulful grooves, and the singing is just like, I'm on this lonely road. For changing. It's like, what? It's kind of haunting, man.
Yeah, Paul Ross's great voice.
Haunting, man. I'm ready for love. Right? It's like, but effortlessly.
Yeah.
And not too excited. Just like walks out and just like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, I'm just chilling.
Did you ever go to like Laser Rock down at the planetarium?
No, I never been.
It was a thing like back in the day. I'm a bit older than you, but like in the, I don't know, mid to late 70s, you go down to the planetarium and they'd have a midnight show where they'd play like Led Zeppelin 4 or Dark Side of the Moon or stuff like classic rock stuff,
Wow.
and they'd have lasers, and everybody'd be pretty high, of course, they'd have lasers bouncing all over the place. It was a pretty cool thing. It was like anybody who was into rock music back then, it was kind of a thing.
Man, I got about 10 minutes left here. I think these.
How much?
About 10 minutes.
All right.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Keep looking at this thing, man. Getting all these alerts.
What do you like? Tough question. What do you like most about yourself?
What I like most about myself is I don't really get too down about anything.
That's great.
I don't. I'm always trying to find joy in the moments. I'm always looking for the answer or the solution. Always. You tell me, hey, you can't make people feel good. Everybody, there's 1,000 people just died in this thing. Like, oh really? Okay, let me figure out how to bring joy to these people in some sort of sense of calm and joy and hope. That's my challenge all the time.
Do you think growing up in the church was a big influence for that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, by far. I mean, look, and one of the down things about growing up in a black church kind of goes back to what I was saying about we don't know our history and our traditions and customs. It's like, we don't know what to eat. So for all of these years here in America, we've been eating the worst food possibly. So growing up in a black church, I played and been to more funerals than you could even imagine.
That's right.
It's so
Yeah.
freaking bad, man. I don't even like to go to funerals anymore.
Wow,
Like
who the hell likes that, man?
literally, I won't even go unless somebody's really close to me. I won't. It's because I've been to over 100 funerals just from growing up in church.
Wow, man. That's
yeah,
that's a lot. That's heavy, man.
Yeah, you could, man. Listen, we would do anywhere between 5 and 8 funerals a year, 5 to 10 a year, man. Growing up,
Wow.
So and so died, brother so and so, Reverend so and so, Pastor so and so, this person, that. It's just like, and it's all from like heart attack, high blood pressure, diabetes, this one, that. I mean,
that's the typical, black. Yeah, that's very typical, man.
Yeah. That's just what I mean, and it's crazy because a lot of these people actually 100%, 90. I would say, if I'm gonna say the word never, so I would say 95% of these people never even smoke or drank before alcohol. So it's kind of, and so now I'm older. I just tell them, I'm like, I don't understand why you guys just can't eat healthy. You guys don't smoke, you never drank before, but you guys got all of these, sort of diseases of high blood, heart disease, pulmonism, this thing, all these things, embolism,
You take good care of yourself. You eat pretty well.
Oh man, I'm a health nut, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's the best thing. Let me tell you, in 15 years, you'll really appreciate all that work you did, because you're going to look around and people you went to high school with, and you're probably seeing it now, and you just look at them like, when did you stop caring at all about yourself?
Oh man, I've seen all those people, man. If you see most of the people I went to high school with, they all look 60, man.
I know. I know. It's terrible, man.
They put on about 100 pounds and
bingo.
And it's pretty bad, man.
Yeah. And hey, one more question, Robert. Over the last, let's say 7 to 10 years, what has been the biggest change in your personality, and how much of that change has been intentional and how much is just a natural?
Biggest change I would say is I like sleeping now, man. I appreciate
right on.
I love mornings, man. I'm all excited, I don't really sleep past 8 o'clock now, So all of the late night partying and sleep until noon, sleep until sound check the next day, 3:30 p.m. Those days are long, long gone.
That's great. That's part of eating healthy. So you're like, your whole vibe is gone towards just taking care of yourself better, man. Is what it sounds like.
I mean, yeah, I still have fun too, but like when you, it's funny, as Carlos Santana told me one day, and I think this might have helped me flip the switches, because I was talking to him, and while I was talking to him, some fan came up, and some fan was like, "Hey, Mr. Santana, I love you, man. I just remember, do you remember that time, man, where you and I think it was like you and BB King, you guys jammed and like, Fresno at this so-and-so place." And Santana looks at him and goes, "What year was that again?" And the guy's like, "Man, I think it was like 1984, 85. Santana was like, "Bro, anything between 78 and 88, I don't remember anything."
Wow. But that's a huge chunk of your life, man.
Yeah. So I was like, "What happened, man?" He's like, "Bro," he said, "those were the years, man. You put the acid under here, you do that, you sleep, you wake up the next day, you sleep, you play a show, you do that." He's like, "I don't remember. Those years are all blank to me." He's like, and I was like, wow. He was like, "You bet." And so Carlos Santana now is like your grandfather or your uncle, trying to he's like, "You've been partying too much. What have you been doing? You need to go to," I forget which place he always saying go to Maui. He's like, "You need to go to Maui. You need to go to Maui and sit in the tub and this is his quote, go to Maui, sit in the tub and turn all your red lights to green."
Turn all your red lights to green. That's cool.
Whatever
you took it to heart, though, it sounds like, and it sounds like you do pretty good. Like, who doesn't like to party and get a buzz on once in a while? But it sounds like overall you're pretty focused on.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean,
good stuff.
Like I said, man, when you start thinking about it, how many funerals and all that you've been to, and you start to see people unhealthy and this one dead and that one dead. I mean, you can't help but change as you get older, man, so.
Good for you, man.
I think for me, that's sort of the biggest change, of personally, I guess, it's like, hey, man, I like mornings now, man. I get excited.
Good for
I get
you.
excited when because, you may have others and people out there going like, come on, man, come go to the party with us. Come do this, come do that. And you're like, okay, man. Yeah, let me go change. I'll be right back. And then you just disappear. And then you.
Right on. Good for you, man. Hey, well, you'll be around a lot longer.
Then you're like, oh, I won. I beat this again.
Well, hey, first of all, thank you very much for your time, man. It's been a real privilege talking to you. Anybody who is not familiar with Robert Randolph's music, and if you haven't seen him in concert, you've got to go, but check out his music.
Yes.
He's got some beautiful records. His last record is called Brighter Days, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's Brighter Days. The last record was phenomenal. I mean, all this stuff is just, if you want to blow your mind, listen to Ted's Jam. First track off first record. You'll be addicted forever. Yeah. And also you can check him out on his website at robertrandolph.net. Also Facebook, Instagram as well. And he's also available now on livemusicmasters.com. And you can go play with him, hang out with him, have him be your therapist for an hour, whatever it is you want, man. But you could connect with him on there.
Hey, he could be my therapist for an hour, man.
Or you could be his therapist for an hour. And man, thank you very much for everything. Hold on one second. Let me wrap. Is there anything else I forgot to mention or that you want to mention as far as promo?
No, man, get the new record. Come see us live whenever that starts back up. But get the new record. Support us. Go buy some merch if you want. But definitely, yeah, let's come hang out because we're all sitting in the house doing nothing. Go to www.livelessonmasters.com. Book a little session. And
live lesson or live music?
Live Lesson Masters.
Oh, Live Lesson Masters. Okay, Live Lesson Masters. Great. And hang out with him and spend your time wisely. And stop eating high cholesterol foods. Hang on one second. Let me wrap up. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels with your friends. We appreciate your support. Thanks very much to Robert Randolph. I saw this guy in 2011. I've been a fan of his for years. It's really a pleasure to connect with him. He's got such great soul and great vibes, and he plays the crap out of guitar in such a kind and passionate way, man. And what he does with the slide is absolutely magical. So please check him out. And most important, especially nowadays, remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely.
Yes, nice. Go, baby.
Right on, brother. Be nice. Go play a guitar and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Robert, thank you so much, bro.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Craig. I appreciate it.